Security! Get that boy out of the lab now. The voice echoed across the marble floors of coincidental's headquarters, slicing through the sterile silence of the night like a crack of thunder. Security guards in Navy uniforms snapped to attention. Their boots clicked sharply as they rushed toward the innovation wing. A 17-year-old black teen stood frozen in place, surrounded by glowing computer monitors and whiteboards filled with frantic equations. The marker in his hand hovered midair. His eyes, wide and alert, scanned a sea of puzzled faces now staring back at him. His name was Malik Johnson. He wasn't an intern. He wasn't a software engineer. He didn't even have a visitor's badge. He was the janitor's son. Malik had only come that evening to help his mother, Gloria Johnson, a quiet, hard-working woman who had taken on a night shift cleaning the headquarters just to make ends meet. She had dreams for her son, and every floor she scrubbed was one small sacrifice to get him closer to them. She told Malik to wait in the lobby while she worked. Just a few hours, she said. He had brought along his backpack, some snacks, and his AP Physics book. That was the plan. But Malik was curious. Always had been. The headquarters was a fortress of glass and innovation, a place where ideas became technology and dreams turned into billion-dollar systems. It felt like a universe away from the neighborhoods Malik grew up in. And as his mother cleaned the marble floors with practiced efficiency, Malik found himself drawn to a hallway just past the security desk. One of the side doors had been left slightly open, a rare slip in a building so tightly locked down. Inside that room was something magical, a glowing lab, humming with electricity. Towering computers lined the walls. Digital panels blinked with life. At the center of the room stood a massive whiteboard, its surface covered in looping formulas, jagged code, and red excess of frustration. Malik stepped inside slowly, his breath catching in his throat. He had no idea that this lab was ground zero for coincidental's biggest failure, a glitch that had haunted the company's top engineers for nearly a year. The issue was buried deep in the software for their flagship project, the Novalink satellite navigation system, a revolutionary AI-driven satellite expected to redefine global communications and defense. The software had a flaw, one that caused the AI's decision-making protocols to crash under specific load conditions. The project had already been delayed 4 times, costing the company over $100 million in lost contracts and growing distrust from investors and the government. The best minds in the building had thrown everything at it. Some believed it was a hardware issue. Others blamed the algorithmic structure. Consultants had been flown in from Silicon Valley, Tokyo, Berlin. And yet the whiteboard still bore the same problem. But Malik didn't know any of that. All he saw was messy code. To him, it wasn't a $1 million headache. It was a challenge, a puzzle, a riddle wrapped in syntax and logic. Malik's eyes darted across the symbols. He could see it, plain as day. A memory leak loop, redundant processing cycles, a recursive function misfiring and triggering the same cache overload repeatedly. His fingers twitched. He couldn't help it. He picked up the marker. No fear, no hesitation. 3 quick edits, a tightened logic loop, an override protocol restructured, and a redundant instruction line deleted. He stepped back, looking over his changes like an artist checking his final brushstroke. That's when the chaos began. The lab door opened again, this time with authority. A team of engineers walked in, talking amongst themselves about power draw analysis. The first one stopped mid-sentence when he saw the board. "Who touched this?" he said sharply. The others gathered behind him, eyes narrowing at the unfamiliar handwriting on their sacred wall. They weren't amused. This was their work, their battlefield. Malik's voice barely rose above a whisper. "I just noticed something wrong in the sequence. I didn't mean to. You're not authorized to be in here." One of them snapped. "Security." Before the guards could reach him, a younger engineer stepped closer to the board. He frowned, reading the code, then blinked, then read it again. "Wait a second," he murmured. He rushed to a terminal and quickly typed in Malik's changes, running a local simulation. The room tensed. The simulation began to process. The engineers leaned in. Then something unexpected happened. It passed. No crash. No error code. No bottleneck. The code held. Run it again, another engineer said. He did. Again and again. Same result. For the first time in 11 months, the test module passed the benchmark simulation flawlessly. The memory loop had vanished. The AI executed the test case with record speed. Malik stood silently as the room transformed from hostility to astonishment. "Who is this kid?" someone whispered. A few minutes later, the lab was filled with suits. Walter Hargrove, the cold, sharp CEO of Clyden Tech, marched in, flanked by his assistant and 2 senior developers. He was known for firing people over missed deadlines and for never tolerating anyone who wasted his time. "What's going on?" Hargrove demanded. "I got a call saying the glitch was fixed. Is this another false alarm?" One of the engineers stepped forward. "No, sir. It's real. It passed every test." "Who fixed it?" A pause. Then a finger pointed to Malik. "He did." Hargrove's eyes locked onto the boy. "What department are you in?" I'm not. I'm just here with my mom. She's the janitor." Hargrove stared at him, then turned to the engineers. "Are you telling me a janitor's son walked into our lab and fixed a problem that's cost us $100 million? The room was silent. "Yes, sir," someone finally said. "That's exactly what happened." Hargrove stepped closer to Malik. "Explain what you saw." Malik swallowed hard. "You were running a recursive function that overloaded the memory stack every 3 milliseconds. It was crashing the system. I just restructured the loop and cleaned the cache instruction." Hargrove blinked. "It was correct. Perfectly correct. Get me HR," he said quietly to his assistant. "Offer this young man a position. Full access. Paid internship. I want him in our AI division immediately." Malik's eyes widened. "But I'm not even in college." Hargrove chuckled. "You've already outperformed people with PhDs. We'll get you into college. Pick one." Later that night, Gloria was called to the executive floor. She feared the worst. Maybe Malik had broken something, or wandered where he shouldn't have. But what she walked into took her breath away. Her son, sitting across from the CEO. The board of directors clapping. A contract on the table. A college scholarship waiting. Tears ran down her face. "You've raised a genius," Hargrove told her, "and we intend to make sure the world knows it." In the following weeks, Malik's story went viral. Tech blogs covered it. News anchors shared the miracle. He was offered admission to MIT, Stanford, and Caltech, all full ride. But Malik chose to stay with Clyden for the time being, learning, building, and proving that greatness can come from any hallway, even one cleaned by a tired mother on the night shift. Today, in the Clyden Tech Innovation Lab, that whiteboard is framed, never erased. Above it hangs a plaque that reads, 3 lines, 1 mind, 0 limits. And right beside it is a picture of Malik Johnson, 17 years old, holding a marker, changing the future. Malik barely had time to put the marker down when the lab door hissed open. The quiet buzz of fluorescent lights was suddenly overpowered by footsteps, fast, confident, annoyed. A group of engineers poured into the room, their arms full of tablets and laptops, deep in discussion about the latest failed simulation. But the moment their eyes landed on the whiteboard, they froze. The board had been changed, gone with the tangled equations they'd agonized over for the past 11 months. In their place were 3 strange edits, simple, clean, confident strokes. A few lines crossed out, a few new symbols inserted. It looked nothing like what they'd written. "Who wrote this?" one of them demanded, his voice sharp and incredulous. They looked around the room. That's when they noticed him, Malik Johnson, standing near the board, still gripping the marker in his right hand. He looked like a kid caught painting on a museum wall. Baggy hoodie, old sneakers, nervous hands. One of the engineers stepped forward, narrowing his eyes. "Are you even supposed to be in here?" Malik took a step back, instinctively raising his hands. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said quickly. I noticed something. In the logic loop. I thought I could simplify the algorithm." The room went completely silent. You could hear the hum of the servers behind the glass walls. The lead engineer, an older man with gray streaks in his beard and exhaustion written all over his face, folded his arms and laughed bitterly. You thought you could solve something our team of PhDs hasn't been able to crack in over a year, he said, his voice dripping with disbelief. You think it's just that easy? Malik didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply nodded. It looked inefficient, he said softly. You were running a redundant calculation loop every 3 milliseconds. That's what was causing the memory overflow. One of the junior developers, Elena, a sharp-eyed programmer in her mid-20s, raised an eyebrow. She didn't recognize Malik, but something about his tone caught her attention. It wasn't arrogant. It wasn't random guessing. He spoke like someone who understood exactly what he was saying. Without a word, she stepped over to her terminal and began typing. Wait, are you seriously testing his changes? The head engineer said, incredulous. I just want to see something, Elena replied. The others leaned in as she finished entering the edits Malik had made. She pressed the enter key. The simulator came to life. It took 18 seconds. They watched the cascading streams of test cases run through the system, lines of code validating, processing, resolving. The green lights started to appear. 1, then 2, then all of them. No lag, no crashes, no memory leaks. The glitch was gone. For the first time in nearly a year, the Novalink system passed the critical load test. Elena's eyes widened. Wait a minute. She ran it again, just to be sure. Same result. Everything worked. This actually works, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The head engineer stepped forward, pushing his glasses up with shaking fingers. He scrolled through the results. Then he stared at the whiteboard and finally at Malik. How did you even know what this was? He asked, genuinely confused now. You're not even on this project. Malik shrugged awkwardly. I wasn't trying to mess with anything. I just came here with my mom. She's on the cleaning staff. I was waiting in the lobby while she worked, and I wandered in. You just wandered into a level 2 restricted AI lab, one engineer said, stunned. I didn't know, Malik replied honestly. The door was open. I saw the whiteboard. I recognized the structure. It looked like a multi-threaded AI loop. I've been studying those on my own. I guess I just saw something familiar. You've been studying this on your own? Malik nodded. I've been learning from online courses. Mostly free stuff. MIT's open material. Some Stanford lectures on YouTube. I don't have a teacher or anything. Just curiosity. The room was quiet again. But this time, it wasn't filled with disbelief. It was filled with respect. The junior dev walked over to Malik, her expression softening. What's your name? Malik Johnson. One of the senior engineers leaned back, muttering to himself. He caught something we never even thought to question. We assumed the loop was necessary. He just removed it. More than that, Elena said. He optimized it, rewrote it cleaner than we ever did. The head engineer slowly lowered himself into a chair, staring at the results. That bug cost us 11 months, dozens of people, millions in consultant fees. And this kid just walks in and solves it in seconds. Malik fidgeted with a marker. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get anyone in trouble. A moment later, a voice crackled over the intercom. Walter Hargrove is on his way down. Every head in the room snapped toward the door. The CEO. Walter Hargrove wasn't just the head of Clyden Tech. He was Clyden Tech known for his ruthless efficiency and his intolerance for excuses. He had personally led the Novalink project and staked his name on its success. For nearly a year, he had watched it bleed money and reputation. He wasn't known for smiling, and he definitely wasn't known for second chances. The door slid open with a quiet hiss, and in walked Hargrove, flanked by 2 advisors and his personal assistant. What's going on? He asked sharply. I was told the simulation passed. The head engineer stood. It did, sir. How? Everyone hesitated. Then Elena spoke. He fixed it. Hargrove's gaze followed her pointing finger, straight to Malik, still standing in front of the whiteboard. Who is he? He's not one of ours, said another engineer. He's the janitor's son. Hargrove raised an eyebrow. The janitor's son? Yes, sir. He came in with his mother. He saw the board and made some changes. We tested it. It works. Hargrove stepped forward slowly, examining the whiteboard. What exactly did he change? Malik cleared his throat. The logic loop, sir. You had a redundancy firing every 3 milliseconds. It was triggering unnecessary cache stacking, which led to a memory overflow. I rewrote the cycle to only activate on variable change rather than constant interval. Hargrove stared at him, then looked at the board again, then at the green simulation results on the nearby screen. And for the first time in recent memory, Walter Hargrove smiled. You realize what you've done? He asked. Malik nodded nervously. Yes, sir. I think so. You just saved this company from losing a $100 million contract. You solved a problem that 3 international teams and 2 full departments couldn't. Malik looked down. I wasn't trying to cause trouble. Hargrove turned to his assistant. Call HR immediately. I want him on board. Internship. Paid. Full access. Assign a senior mentor. Right away, sir. Then he turned to Malik. What's your dream, son? Malik hesitated. To study artificial intelligence. To build systems that can solve real-world problems. Hargrove nodded. Then consider this your first step. A few minutes later, Gloria Johnson was called up from the lobby. She arrived worried, still wearing rubber gloves and holding a mop handle. When she entered the lab and saw her son standing beside the CEO, surrounded by engineers clapping and smiling, she nearly fainted. They handed her a letter of scholarship, a new job offer, a future she had only dared to imagine in her prayers. And Malik, he never stopped being curious. But from that day on, he never had to sneak into a lab to find opportunity, because opportunity had finally found him. Word spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the sterile quiet of Clyden Tech's upper floor turned into chaos. The executive boardroom lights snapped on. Phones buzzed. Senior directors were jolted out of their late evening emails, whispering urgent messages to each other. On the 6th floor, a few interns stared as a man in a dark suit moved like a thundercloud down the hallway. Walter Hargrove, CEO and co-founder of Clyden Tech, was a man you didn't summon lightly. The very mention of his name in a meeting was enough to make grown executives sit up straighter. He had built the company from the ground up, turning it into one of the world's most respected tech giants. But he was also known for his brutal efficiency, cold decision-making, and a smile so rare it might as well have been myth. And now, he was marching toward the innovation lab, his polished shoes pounding against the marble tile like a countdown. The door opened, and Hargrove stepped in. His presence was immediate. Sharp suit, silver tie pin, eyes like steel. He scanned the room. Every engineer, developer, and technician in that space suddenly stood straighter. Who solved the glitch? He asked, voice low but commanding. No one moved. Then slowly, hesitantly, one of the engineers turned and pointed. That boy. Hargrove's eyes followed the direction of the finger. There, standing awkwardly in the corner, was Malik Johnson, a teenager in a hoodie and sneakers, with a backpack still slung over one shoulder. His hands were fidgeting, and his eyes were wide, nervous. Hargrove frowned. Which department is he from? The lead engineer stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable. He's not with us, sir. He's the janitor's son. The room held its breath. For a moment, Hargrove didn't speak. He looked from the engineer to Malik, then slowly stepped toward the whiteboard. The codes and symbols had been altered, elegantly, efficiently. No clutter, no mistakes. It wasn't just a patch, it was a solution. He turned to the nearby workstation, where the simulation results still glowed on screen. Green. Stable. Verified. A flawless pass. Are you telling me? Hargrove said slowly, his voice dropping to a near whisper, that this young man solved a multi-million-dollar failure in seconds? One of the developers, Elena, nodded. Yes, sir. And it wasn't a fluke. The patch is elegant. Genius level. He not only fixed the bug, he rewrote the most vulnerable loop and reduced the load time by almost 15%. Another senior technician added, we ran the simulation 5 times. Same result. It's stable. Better than anything we've done. Hargrove stared at Malik again, studying him like a scientist observing an anomaly. You, he said. What's your name? Malik, sir. The boy answered quietly. Malik Johnson. The CEO nodded. And what exactly were you doing in this lab? Malik looked around, as if expecting someone to jump in and save him. I wasn't trying to cause trouble, he said carefully. My mom was working tonight. She's part of the cleaning staff. I was supposed to stay in the lobby and study, but I wandered down the hallway. The lab door was open, and I saw the board. I guess I just noticed something in the code. You just noticed something? Hargrove echoed. Yes, sir. I saw the recursive loop and realized it was triggering a memory overflow. You were running a calculation every 3 milliseconds, even when no data was changing. I removed the redundant call and optimized the logic. There was a pause. A long one. No one interrupted. Then Hargrove took a step closer. Where did you learn that? You're what, 16? 17. 17, sir. I've been learning coding and quantum systems since I was 13. Mostly self-taught. Online courses. Open source projects. Free textbooks. I watch MIT lectures at night on YouTube. I've always been fascinated by how AI thinks, how it mimics decision-making under pressure. Still, no one spoke. The only sound in the room was the soft hum of the computers. Then something unexpected happened. Hargrove smiled. Not a polite smile. Not a dismissive one. A wide, genuine smile. The kind of smile that left even the most hardened executive stunned. You've been teaching yourself quantum AI architecture since you were 13, he repeated, as if trying to believe it himself. Malik nodded. Do you realize, Hargrove said slowly, that our teams made up of engineers from Caltech, Oxford, and MIT, have been trying to solve that flaw for nearly a year? Malik's voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't know what it was for. I just saw a pattern that didn't make sense. Hargrove turned to his assistant. Get HR down here. Now. I want Malik on board immediately. Internship, full access, whatever he needs. The assistant blinked. Sir, he's still in high school. Then we give him a hybrid program. Online schooling. Mentorship. Pay him double what we pay our interns. Set him up with an advanced workstation. Make sure he's here every day. He wants to be here. Yes, sir. Malik's jaw dropped slightly. Wait, really? You're a once-in-a-generation mind, Malik, Hargrove said. We don't let that walk out the door. Not on my watch. From behind the group, someone whispered, This is going to be all over the news. And it was. By the next morning, Malik Johnson's name was trending across tech blogs and news sites. Headlines like Janitor's Son Fixes Billion-Dollar Glitch and Teen Solves What PhDs Couldn't flooded social media. His story became a symbol of undiscovered genius, of how brilliance can live anywhere in anyone, regardless of job title or background. But before the news went viral, something more important happened. Later that night, Gloria Johnson, Malik's mother, was called upstairs. She was still in her work uniform, gloves in her pocket, and a look of concern on her face. She expected trouble. Maybe her son had broken something. Maybe they were being sent home. What she saw instead nearly knocked her off her feet. Her son, sitting next to the CEO. Engineers smiling. A laptop with simulation results open. A contract on the table. Mrs. Johnson, Hargrove said warmly, standing to greet her. Your son has just saved our company. We owe him and you a great deal. She blinked. My Malik. Yes, ma'am, he said with a respectful nod. You're Malik. He handed her a copy of the offer. Full internship, college funding, living stipend, educational support, and a new position for her as well, away from cleaning, in the newly formed Diversity and Innovation Outreach Team. Her hands shook as she looked down at the paper. She didn't speak. She just hugged her son, tightly, proudly. And as the two of them stood there, surrounded by executives and engineers, one thing became clear. Brilliance doesn't need permission. It only needs a moment. From that day forward, Malik's story lived in the heart of Clyde Tech. Not just in the code, or in the systems he helped build, but in the quiet understanding that true talent can come from anywhere, even from a boy who wandered into the wrong room and rewrote the future. Walter Hargrove stared at the whiteboard once more, as if trying to memorize the edits. 3 lines of code. That's all it took. 3 lines from a kid who didn't even belong in the room. The CEO of Clyden Tech, a man whose handshake closed billion-dollar deals and whose schedule was more guarded than a presidential motorcade, turned to his assistant. "Call HR," he said firmly. "Get Malik an internship contract. Full-time. Top-tier mentorship. Paid at senior intern rates." The assistant blinked. "Effective when?" Hargrove didn't hesitate. "Effective now." Then he turned back to Malik. The teenager still stood in front of the board, hands awkwardly at his sides, backpack drooping off one shoulder. He looked out of place in a room filled with elite programmers, AI architects, and tech giants. But somehow, he belonged more than anyone. "You just saved this company's most valuable project," Hargrove said, locking eyes with him. "You're not going back to mop floors." Malik's eyes widened, his mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to respond but couldn't find the words. I haven't even finished high school yet," he said, almost apologetically. "Doesn't matter," Hargrove replied. "Genius doesn't wait for diplomas. It doesn't ask for permission, and it definitely doesn't care about age." The room remained silent, still absorbing what had just happened. The glitch that had cost Clyden Tech nearly $100 million, consumed 11 months of manpower, and put their most advanced satellite AI system on life support, had been solved by a 17-year-old who wasn't even supposed to be in the building. Later that evening, as the sun set behind the glass towers of the Clyden campus, Gloria Johnson received a phone call. She was still cleaning. Her gloves were soaked, and her knees ached. She'd been working for nearly 10 hours, making her way through the corporate offices like she had for the last 15 years. The voice on the line said simply, "Ma'am, could you please come to the executive floor? Mr. Hargrove would like to speak with you. Your son is already here." Her heart stopped. She thought something had gone wrong. Maybe Malik had broken something. Maybe he wandered where he wasn't supposed to. Maybe they were both about to be escorted out of the building. She took the elevator up, clutching her hands together the entire ride. The doors opened with a soft ding, revealing the top floor of the company, the place she had only seen through glass, never dared to step foot in. Polished mahogany, soft lighting, abstract art hanging on the walls. It smelled of fresh leather and quiet power. When she entered the boardroom, her knees buckled. There, at the long conference table, was her son, sitting beside the CEO. And not just sitting. He looked confident. A new Clyden badge already clipped to his hoodie. A laptop open in front of him. Several engineers nodded in his direction, and even the board members smiled politely as she entered. Hargrove stood and walked over. "Mrs. Johnson," he said with surprising warmth in his voice, "thank you for joining us. Your son just saved this company from a $100 million disaster. Quite literally." Gloria didn't speak. Her eyes moved from Hargrove to Malik, back and forth, like she couldn't quite believe either of them were real. Malik," she whispered. "Yes," Hargrove said. "You're Malik. He discovered the root of the AI system failure in our Novalink satellite project. Fixed it in seconds. No one else, not our internal team, not the contractors, not even the guys we flew in from Switzerland, could do it." Gloria's hands trembled. "I told him to stay in the lobby," she said softly, almost ashamed. "And thank God he didn't," Hargrove replied, "because if he hadn't been curious enough to walk into that lab, we'd still be chasing shadows." He pulled a thin folder from the table and handed it to her. "We'd like to offer him a position on our elite research team. Effective immediately. Part-time while he finishes school. Full-time whenever he's ready." Gloria opened the folder with shaking fingers. She couldn't make sense of all the terms: stipends, mentorship access, clearance level, project tiers. But what caught her eye was the last page. A scholarship contract. Full college tuition. Anywhere. No strings attached. "And also," Hargrove continued, "as a token of our gratitude, we'd like to fund his entire college education, starting today. Anywhere he chooses. No conditions. No repayment. Just a thank you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. For 15 years, she had scrubbed the floors of this building, picked up after executives, cleaned up messes in boardrooms where decisions worth millions were made without ever noticing the janitor in the corner. And now, in this very room, her son sat taller than any CEO at the table. Malik stood and rushed to her side, holding her hand tightly. "I didn't mean to scare you, Mama," he said, voice trembling. "I just saw the code and I knew I could fix it." Gloria shook her head, smiling through the tears. "I always knew you were meant for more," she whispered. "I just never imagined it would happen today." One of the engineers stepped forward. "Ma'am," she said, "I've been working here for 12 years, and I've never seen the CEO offer a full ride and a research seat to anyone, not even a graduate student." Gloria wiped her eyes, still in disbelief. Hargrove walked her over to the conference table, gesturing for her to sit. "This building is full of smart people," he said, "but brilliance like Malik's doesn't walk through the front door every day, and rarely does it come from someone who wasn't invited." He turned to the rest of the room. "That ends today. From now on, we start looking everywhere for talent, because today proves something important. A genius doesn't need a corner office. Sometimes he comes in after hours, through the back door, with a backpack full of dreams." There was a pause, and then applause. The executives, the engineers, even the assistants in the back, they all clapped for Malik and his mother. Malik blinked back tears of his own, suddenly overwhelmed. It was too much, but he stood tall. He had earned it. In the days that followed, the story of Malik Johnson spread like wildfire. Janitor's son saves billion-dollar satellite program. Teenage genius fixes what global experts couldn't. From mop to mainframe, the story of Malik Johnson. News outlets across the country picked it up. Tech blogs, local channels, even national morning shows. Interviews rolled in. MIT called. Then Stanford. Then Caltech. Every elite school wanted him. But Malik stayed grounded. He still helped his mom carry groceries. Still sat in his room at night, tinkering with open source code just for fun. He never let the fame make him forget who he was, or where he came from. And in the Clyden Tech Innovation Lab, the whiteboard he'd written on, it was framed, preserved, unchanged. Above it they installed a plaque. 3 lines of code. 1 mind. 0 limits. Malik Johnson, age 17. Within just a few weeks, Malik Johnson went from being an unknown teenager in sneakers and a hoodie to a name whispered across the tech world with awe and admiration. Clyden Tech, one of the most advanced artificial intelligence firms in the world, made it official. Malik became the youngest member ever appointed to their elite advanced algorithm team. He was given his own workstation, full access to the R&D department, and even allowed to participate in high-level meetings where billion-dollar strategies were discussed. He didn't even have a high school diploma yet, but no one cared, because Malik had done what no one else could, and in doing so, he rewrote more than just code. He rewrote the rules. His story spread like wildfire. Within days, tech blogs, news networks, and podcasts were sharing headlines. Teen janitor's son solves billion-dollar glitch. The boy who fixed what MIT grads couldn't. From broom closet to boardroom, Malik Johnson's unbelievable journey. He was interviewed by Wired, TechCrunch, and even appeared via video on Good Morning America, where the hosts called him a living reminder of why talent must never be overlooked. His inbox flooded with offers. Recruiters from MIT, Stanford, Harvard, and Carnegie Mellon all reached out with one message: full ride, early admission. Say the word. One morning, while Malik was sipping orange juice and watching Python tutorials in his kitchen, a thick envelope arrived. It had a SpaceX logo on it. Inside was a handwritten letter from Elon Musk himself. "You're a rare spark of brilliance," the letter read. "Keep building. Keep thinking beyond the rules. The world needs minds like yours." Malik read it 3 times, then quietly slipped it into a shoebox where he kept other things that mattered. His mom's first cleaning ID badge, a photo of their old apartment, and a flash drive where he wrote his first ever line of code. Despite all the fame, Malik remained humble. He didn't suddenly start dressing in designer clothes or flaunting his newfound recognition. When asked about his genius, he always gave the same answer: "I just paid attention. I kept learning, and I never stopped being curious." He credited his mother's strength, the quiet sacrifices she made every day, and those long nights where he read borrowed programming books by flashlight. He talked about how he used to sit outside public libraries just to access free Wi-Fi and stream coding lectures from MIT and Stanford because they couldn't afford internet at home. Gloria Johnson, his mother, his hero, remained by his side through it all. But she didn't stay a janitor. In a gesture that surprised everyone at the company, Walter Hargrove, the no-nonsense CEO of Clyde Tech, walked down to the maintenance department one morning and found her mopping a stairwell. He didn't say much, just handed her a letter and said, "You've cleaned for us long enough. It's time we recognize who you really are." The letter was an official offer, a position in the company's HR department with full benefits, training, and a flexible schedule, so she could attend night classes if she chose. But that was only the beginning. Inspired by Malik's rise, Clyde Tech launched a bold new initiative, a diversity and hidden talent program aimed at hiring underprivileged youth, especially those with self-taught or non-traditional backgrounds. And they made Gloria its first motivational mentor. She now spoke to every new class of interns, telling them about the night her son walked into the wrong room and changed everything. Malik would sometimes sit in the back of the auditorium during those talks, hoodie up, just listening, watching his mother tell their story with pride in her eyes. He'd smile, because he knew. She had always believed in him before anyone else did. Back in the heart of Clyde Tech's Innovation Wing, right outside Lab 6, where it all happened, a framed photo now hangs on the wall. It shows Malik standing tall beside the whiteboard where he had rewritten the broken code. He's holding the marker like it's a lightsaber. Engineers are in the background, staring in disbelief. His mother is beside him, hand over her heart. Beneath the photo is a small plaque. It doesn't mention his age. It doesn't mention his lack of a degree. It simply reads, "Genius knows no title, only opportunity." That photo became a symbol in the company, a reminder. Every time a new intern walks past that wall, especially the ones without fancy degrees, the ones who come from public schools, broken homes, or crowded apartments, they pause. Some stare at it longer than others. And in that moment, they remember, brilliance doesn't wear a suit. Brilliance doesn't always have a resume. Sometimes, brilliance walks in through the service door, wearing worn-out sneakers and carrying a borrowed laptop. And that thought, that truth, has changed how Clyde Tech recruits forever. They now look deeper. They listen closer. They pay attention to the ones others overlook. Because Malik Johnson proved something vital. You never know where the next genius will come from. He might not have a LinkedIn profile. He might not speak with a polished accent. He might be sitting outside the building, waiting for his mom to finish work. And if you're lucky, he just might walk into the wrong room and solve your biggest problem with 3 lines of brilliance. To this day, when high-level executives from other companies tour Clyde Tech's Innovation Lab, someone always stops to explain the photograph on the wall. They tell the story, how the janitor's son saved the company, how a $100 million glitch was fixed in less than a minute by someone no one saw coming, and how that moment didn't just change Malik's life, it changed everyone's perspective. So the next time someone underestimates the cleaner's kid, the next time someone assumes intelligence only wears a suit and tie, the next time someone looks at a teenager and sees only where they are, not what they're capable of becoming, they remember Malik. Because brilliance doesn't ask for your permission. It just shows up. And if you're smart enough to recognize it, you give it a marker, you hand it a whiteboard, and you get out of its way.